So it's the time of the year that we need to be pumping out our fall and autumn items. But there is one huge mistake that I have noticed that people are doing in their fall marketing, and it could be killing your sales. We'll cover that in a minute, but for those of you that are new to the channel and wondering what this smalls that sell is all about, well, in this case, I have researched all of the big box stores to see what is hot, what is trending, what is selling right now. Then I'll take those items, break them down, teach you how they were built so you can put your own twist to it. So let's go ahead and jump into fall smalls that sell. So we know that seasonal items sell like crazy because people love to decorate their houses for the different seasons. And fall items have always been one of the biggest sellers. But the problem that I'm noticing right now, and it's really not in the big box stores, it's actually in our maker community, but people seem to be intertwining fall, autumn, and Halloween. So these are going to be two totally different categories. Halloween will have its own set of decorations and items to build, whereas fall or autumn will have a completely different look. So around Halloween, you're going to be seeing a lot of bright colored items. Even if they're similar colors, let's say orange and white, typically super bright around Halloween. Whereas your autumn items should be toned down colors, nothing bright. Think about it. Autumn is when the leaves start to change colors. The bright greens turn more into dull browns and reds. But don't get me wrong, they're still beautiful colors, but they are not bright. So if you don't take anything else away from this video, from the marketing aspect, take this away. No bright colors. If you look at the big box stores, you will not find super bright colors right now unless it is a Halloween item. Even the whites aren't super crisp white. They're more of a distressed white. And there's one last thing about intermingling the two. Don't do it. Do not try to market these fall and autumn items along with a Halloween item unless it will fit the season. Nothing cartoony, no ghosts, no monsters, nothing like that, because everyone out there is going to be trying to sell that kind of stuff, and they're probably not selling many. You are going for a boutique marketing look. And there's definitely one thing that you're not going to find with this look is bright colored monsters. So with that out of my system, let's go ahead and get back on track with some items that will sell. So it looks like for this fall or autumn season, the theme is rustic. And everything is not super rustic. There's some items that were modern rustic, but everything just kind of has a rustic feel to it. The great thing about rustic is it's easy to make. Now you're going to have to dig deep into your creative side here because there's a lot of different shapes with these builds. The good thing is that most of these shapes are just cut out with a jigsaw. Just like this first one, the rustic wood pumpkin patch. This particular store is wanting $178 for this pumpkin patch. And whenever I look at it, it is a cool looking decoration. It can be used indoors, it can be used outdoors, and it's simple to make. So for the dimensions of this build, the tallest one of these abstract looking pumpkins is 16.5 inches tall. The entire project is 3.5 inches deep and it's 20 inches long. So that means that the base of this thing is 3.5 by 20 inches long. Now they use 3/4 inch material to make all of this, most likely 1x6s, something like that. But the first thing that popped into my head, especially since we're going to be painting this, is fence pickets. Okay, they will be perfect. 5.5 inches wide. You can get a pine picket for $2. If you add all of this material up together by length, you only come up with 68 inches. So essentially, minus your paint and time, you could make this for $2. They are selling these things for $180. So let's say that you decide to use fence picket material. Like I said earlier, the tallest one of these are 16 inches tall. Standard picket size is 5.5 inches wide. Cut them all 16 inches long. Because if you notice, the width of every single one of these are the exact same width, and the shape is pretty much the exact same shape. So what I would do is cut 3 boards 16 inches long, stack those on top of each other, and you're just going to roughly draw the arch and stems onto the tops of this. Cut this out with a jigsaw. If you mess up, no big deal. You cannot mess this up because the look that they are going for here is primitive Americana, which is going to be hand cut. So give them the hand cut look. Once you have all 3 of your boards cut out, now you can take like 2 inches off the bottom of one board, 4 inches off the bottom of the next, just whatever that you think would look best. And this is just going to stagger the height a little bit. Then I would take those 3 boards and go ahead and paint those the way that you would like. The baseboard that we discussed earlier, I would just leave it natural or stain it dark. Once these parts have been painted, lay out your 2 tallest ones flat on a table, and then take your shortest one, put it right on top, then pull the 2 that are underneath out just enough so that your top one will only be covering about 1/3 of the material. Once you have that in place, brad nails. You can actually see it on this white one. They just went to town with a brad nailer. Not that noise. Not that noise either. Pop, 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 pop. Maybe that's it. They went to town with a brad nailer. I would throw a little wood glue behind that first. Then to attach this to the bottom board, I would just use wood glue, throw in some brad nails to hold this into place, and then throw in a couple of screws from underneath. So now you have your pumpkin patch look. Honestly, those would sell without the lettering. Like, it would look good. Picture this without the lettering. They would sell. But to increase your customer base, go ahead and get a cheap stencil set. You can pick these up at Hobby Lobby. You can pick these up off of Amazon, and they're dirt cheap. Get different sizes, get different fonts, cut these babies out, and then just use that to spray paint fall across the front. If you're going to be making several of these, you can actually do this before you assemble it. So on the tallest pumpkin, you just put the F in the center, the second tallest, the L, and then the very middle one, Al. You'll just put Al in the middle. If you decide to do it this way, don't put blank ones on the side, or it's just going to say Al, and it's going to confuse a lot of people. But after your stencil is on there, the only thing left to do is to tie a piece of that decorative grass, and I cannot think of the name of that stuff. I have no clue. It's decorative grass. It's dirt cheap, and you can buy bundles of it, and it gets everywhere. But you can actually tie it. Get some of that cheap grass, or go out and pick some out of the field, tie it around the top. You could also use jute cord or twine for this. And since this project is so easy to make it in a ton of different colors. Like we mentioned before, when it comes to marketing, this isn't about the colors that you like. So if you only have a couple of bucks in this, make them in several different colors. Just not bright colors. And if there's anyone out there that is interested in joining a group of like-minded people, then make sure to check out our Patreon community. Their support for the channel is what helps to keep the lights on, and we have a lot of fun doing it. So if it sounds like something that you are interested in, I'll make sure to throw a link in the description. I would love to see you there. All right, so this next one, it is called a Rustic Cream Wood Slat Pumpkin Set. Noticing a name theme here. The last two projects have been Rustic. The name's a little bit long for me, but to each their own, because they are selling the heck out of these for $53 a set. And you may be thinking, $53 for 3 different items? That's not bad. And honestly, if I were making these, I would probably sell them for around $40 or $50 a set. But the kicker is I can make these for around $4 a set. So let me tell you how I would do it. So each one of the pumpkins in this set is 1.5 inches thick. This tells me that it is made out of 2x-dimensional lumber. And the reason why they use thicker lumber for a lot of things like this is because it can set up by itself. I would buy 2x12 material. In my area right now, an 8-foot 2x12 is $10.76. But before I did anything with that 2x12, I would actually draw these out onto a piece of cardboard and make my own stencils. We're going to say that the stems are right around 2 inches long each. The tallest one's going to be 13.5 inches long, just so you have an idea of how everything's going to be laid out. So since the tallest one is 13.5 inches, it's going to be laying sideways on your board because it's only 11 inches wide. Now again, on each one of these, you're going to have to get a little creative. Either going to have to find some household items that have these kind of shapes, or you're going to have to draw arches. And I've shown you how to do this before just by using a piece of scrap wood to get these arches. You can just kind of bend it into the shape that you want. And then to hold this shape, you can take a piece of tape, put it on both sides, run it across the back, and keep your form. And the shapes of these things are going to be completely up to you. And again, that can change because you're doing it on a stencil right now. So the second tallest pumpkin is 9.5 by 7.5 inches wide. And then the smallest one is going to be 7 inches tall by 9.5 inches wide. So every single one of these sizes will fit on a 2x12 in one way or another. Two tallest ones will have to be laying long ways, whereas the small one can be placed straight up. And that actually explains the slats that are in this pumpkin. So these aren't different pieces of wood put together like a fence. It's the look that they're going for. This is a solid piece of wood. So to get this look, set your table saw for somewhere right around 3 3/4 inch wide. Go ahead and run your 2x12 all the way through. Move the fence back 3 3/4 inch. Run it through again. Repeat this one more time, and bingo. You have a 2x12 with these slats going all the way down it that you can now take your stencils, lay these out onto the board, trace those out, and then cut that out with a jigsaw. If you do it like I just explained, each set will only take 32 inches of material. That means that you can get 3 sets out of one 2x12. And then you can paint these pumpkins up any way that you would like. Now you may be asking, what's this little decorative turn down knob at the top? Well, that's actually called a final. Pretty sure it's final. Let me know if I'm saying this right, but they typically go on the ends of curtain rods. You screw them in. I just call them curtain rod ends. Somebody had to come up with some crazy fancy name, I guess, to sell them. But you can actually pick these up for really cheap. And Amazon is not always going to be your cheapest bet. They sell these things at Hobby Lobby, and I actually found this site where if you buy 25 pieces, they're only 35 cents each. You're not going to find them much cheaper than that, and I can guarantee you, even if you have a lathe, you're not going to make them that cheap. And then you know what to do for the rest of this. Just tie some grass string around the top, put one of those little 20-cent metal leaves or whatever on it, and decorate it up. Stage these babies up and they will sell. This is a really cool looking item that is on the trending list, so definitely add this to your fall arsenal. All right, so this next one I did not see in any big box stores, anything like that, but I took the idea of what I teach, which is take an item that is hot during other parts of the year, change up little things with it, and create a totally new item for the new season. And it's exactly what I did to make these super cool pumpkin lanterns. All right, so check these babies out. I really like them. We have the blocky looking rustic look that's in right now, and they come in a set of 2. Anytime that you can sell something in a set, you will sell more. And the greatest thing about this pumpkin lantern set, I really haven't named it yet, but I made both of these out of one fence picket. Let me show you how I did it. All right, so for this build, we're gonna need one fence picket. I decided to go ahead and just use cedar. It's completely up to you. I like working with cedar. Cedar's kind of a fall smell type thing, so thought it would fit good. If you're planning on painting this thing, use the pine pickets. They're only a couple bucks. The first thing that we're going to do is head over to the miter saw. Now this is not a very difficult build at all, and I'm about to teach you step by step on how to do this. But as always, if you're a plans in the hand type of person, head over to my website. I'll throw a link in the description. So at the miter saw, we're going to start off just by squaring up our end. Then we're going to measure out to 21 inches and make a cut. As of right now, this fence picket is still 5.5 inches wide. Now that we have 21 inches ripped off, let's head over to the table saw with both parts. The first board that I'm going to cut at the table saw is the 21-inch board. I'm going to rip this down to 5 inches wide. After that, I'm going to take the board that's left and I'm going to split it in half. This should be right around 2 3/4 of an inch to the center of the blade. All right, so pickles. For some reason, I have noticed that whenever I'm ripping down cedar, sometimes I get this faint smell of dill pickles. Have I completely lost my mind? Or is there anyone else out there that shares this affliction with me? All right, so with our pickle wood ripped down, let's head back to the miter saw. So at the miter saw, we're going to start chopping our material down the size. Let's turn our 21-inch board into 4 boards that are 5 inches long. Since we ripped this board down to 5 inches earlier, we now have a 5x5 square. Now that we have our 5x5 squares, let's measure a 1/2 inch in on each corner on all 4 blocks. With our 4 corners marked, let's set our miter saw to 45 degrees. Then using that 1/2 inch mark as a guide, let's remove each corner. So now that we have our 5x5s done, let's set those aside. And using our remaining material, let's cut 4 boards that are 12 inches long and 4 boards that are 8 inches long. I'm going to make 2 different sizes. There's actually enough material here. If you wanted 2 that were 12 inch, then just cut 8 boards 12 inches long. Now that we have our tops and bottoms and our sides, let's go ahead and finish our parts up by taking what's left of the picket back to the table saw. I'm going to set my saw for 1.5 inches and make my cuts. And we're going to be using the angles on these dog ears, so make sure that those are against the fence. I smell pickles. So these 2 parts I'm going to be using as my stem. I'm going to end up cutting it at 3 inches long. If you wanted to add just a little more decoration to it, you could just hold a ruler at a 45-degree angle, trace that out, then we'll trim this out, making it look a little bit more like a stem. Or if you like the square look, we'll just cut it off at 3 inches. If you decided to go ahead and get the plans for this, I'll make sure to include a printable template. Now with our little stems cut, let's go ahead and cut these down to 3 inches in length. Just to smooth things up a bit, I went ahead and lightly sanded down the edges of all of my parts. The only other things that we'll be needing are 2 1/4 screws, a brad nailer or a stapler, and some wood glue. So with our 2 screws, I'm going to take 2 of our 5x5s and place a screw in the center of each one. We'll go ahead and screw that all the way in. We'll set those 2 parts to the side. So for assembly, we're just going to be fastening our sides to the center of our boards, which happens to be 1 1/4 inches from edge to edge. So instead of measuring each one of these out, just fasten a straight edge in place. I have a piece of scrap wood that I've cut down to 1 1/4 inches that I'm going to use as my spacer. And with my top and bottom boards against my straight edge and my sides against my spacer, now let's glue these up and throw in some brad nails. After I get my first bottom board in, now I'm going to put a top board in, which is the one with the screw. I'm going to have it facing out. And now all I have to do is keep rotating this around. Now I'll just repeat these steps for my shorter one, then we'll put our tops on. Now that we have both put together, let's put on our little stems. And just to make sure that this doesn't split, I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill about 3/4 of an inch in. Now with these pre-drilled, it's all that you have to do. Place it onto the screw and twist it in. And there they are. The only thing left to do is to put a finish on this if you'd like, and then slide in one of those little electric tea lights. You're good to go. And that's how you can make this set for around $2 or $4 if you're using cedar. Then the only other thing that I did was wrap some grass string or jute cord around the top, and then added in these little curly cues. And to find these little curly cues, you can actually order them. You can go to the woods like I've done in previous videos and just get them off of a tree, but I'm not doing that again because I got poison ivy last time that I did it. Where I found these this time was actually even easier than all of my previous times. I found them hanging on my front door. This wreath, of course, is made up of vines, so I cut some stuff off. And when my wife watches this, she's probably not going to be happy. So be ultra stealthy if you decide to go the route that I went, or you can sneak over to your neighbors. But in all seriousness, without the flowers and stuff, you can pick these wreaths up for pretty cheap and use that. Then of course the tea lights, I put 2 different styles in here just to kind of show you what they look like. So if you're going to use tea lights, you're probably going to want to get these smaller ones like this, because the one thing I didn't think about whenever I was making this was for these larger ones, I had to drill a hole in the bottom to slide those up. So you can either put the bottom on with screws so it can come apart, or you can just use the smaller tea lights. And then again, you don't have to stick with cedar. If you make it out of pine, you can make it for a couple bucks. This is a prototype that didn't make the cut. I was kind of going for like a primitive apple look, but still looks pretty decent. I know I could sell these things, but I'm just showing you this to let you know that you can be creative when it comes to fall items, because pumpkins aren't the only thing that are popular in the fall, just like apples. And if you do decide to do something like this, you notice the color of the red is more of like a burnt red, and then I distressed it. Nothing is super bright on this thing. It's for a reason. So if you've made it this far in the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you like these types of videos, please make sure to hit the like button. It's the only way that I'm going to know that I need to keep making these. And this next one has been popular forever in 100 different styles, and that's going to be these porch boards. So the great thing about porch boards is people usually take one down to replace it with the next season. So you can either make these as individual to sell, or you can make them as a seasonal set. Right now, people are going to be focusing on one thing, and that is going to be the fall. So for me, I would focus on that for now. So this happy fall, y'all porch board, I guess a southern accent must also be popular because they threw y'all right on the bottom of this, but that is marketing. I guess the next set is going to say used to could or mom and them. Who knows? But they are selling these happy fall porch boards for $100 a piece. $100 for a porch board. Now think about the different seasons that you can capitalize on with that. But yes, you can make this to where you can turn it around and it says something about Christmas or winter or whatever. Or you can make another board and sell it for $100. That's up to you. So the dimensions of this particular board is 11.5 inches wide by 6 foot tall. So the first thing that pops into my head, fence pickets. They're 6 foot tall and $2 a piece. Now, if you decided to use a standard picket, it wouldn't give you the 3 slat look like they have there, but it's still going to give you that double look. Or you can get a 4-inch picket that's 72 inches long and put 3 together. Regardless of how many pickets that you decide to use, for the back of this thing to connect it, just take some scrap wood that's a couple inches wide by 10 inches long, put one at the top, bottom, and middle, wood glue, and brad nail or staple these things in. That's all that there is to it for making this board. Super simple. Now where you're going to have to get a little bit creative is the writing on the boards. For me, I would just look online for images of letters. Each one of the letters that you want, let's say this F, take that image and whenever you print it, you can size it to the size that you would like. So one letter may take up a whole sheet of paper, but you would do that for each one of these letters. Cut those out, trace these onto your cardboard, cut that out, and now you have a stencil. And if you make your main stencil 6 foot tall, just lay this entire stencil onto your board and spray it all at once. And again, use different colors for your backing and your lettering. And for these, staging is going to be key. But you have to be careful whenever you stage something like this, because once you get it exactly the way that you like it, and let's say that your spouse sees it, it's going to stay there forever, or at least the end of the season. You're not selling that one. You're going to be making some more. So either plan ahead and make an extra one, or be a little stealthy with your staging. So if you've made it to the end of the video and you've decided to leave a comment, start the comment with the word pickle. If you remember earlier, I smelled pickles. Still don't know why, but This is going to let me know who to respond to first. So I just gave you a ton of great ideas on items that will definitely sell. And the great thing about all of these is that they are simple to make. Most of these you can make with a circular saw, a jigsaw, and just a little bit of creativity. So there is no excuses for why you're not building something right now, especially if the weather is nice. Take this opportunity to get up, get out, use these, and to create something. You've got this. Till next time, we'll see ya.